Warrior. Let me start with a truth most people are too afraid to face. You are running out of time. Not tomorrow. Not years from now. Right now, this very second, your life is slipping through your hands. There comes a haunting moment in every person's life when they look into the mirror and realize something devastating. I have been drifting, not growing, not building, not becoming the person I was meant to be, just existing. Days blur into weeks, weeks dissolve into months, months vanish into years, and suddenly the weight of wasted time crashes down like a tidal wave. The Stoics saw this danger over 2,000 years ago. Seneca thundered through history with the warning, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." These words cut like fire through the soul because they expose the contradiction of human life. We fear the smallest discomforts, a hard workout, an awkward conversation, the pain of learning something new. Yet we behave as if we will live forever, as if we have infinite tomorrows to chase our highest callings. But here is the brutal truth. Time is not stolen from you. It is not snatched away by fate or stolen by others. No, you surrender it, hour by hour, excuse by excuse, choice by choice, until one day you wake up and whisper in despair, "Where did my life go?" Seneca, who understood human procrastination more than anyone in history, said it clearly. Most people never truly live. They spend their days preparing to live, always getting ready, always on the verge of beginning, always waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. My friend, it is not laziness that destroys the majority of human potential. It is delay. Delay whispers its poison in one deadly word: tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll fix your health. Tomorrow you'll start that business. Tomorrow you'll confront the truth. Tomorrow you'll invest in your future. But tomorrow is a liar. Tomorrow is the most dangerous word in any language. It promises everything while delivering nothing. This is why so many go to their graves with what Oliver Wendell Holmes called their music still inside them. Their unwritten books, their unbuilt businesses, their unlived dreams, their greatness buried alive. The Stoics lived differently. They carried a fire in their hearts, a philosophy of urgency tied to presence. They believed that life is built with intention, not with hope. That the gap between who you are and who you could become closes only through deliberate, disciplined action taken consistently every single day. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, didn't see himself first as an emperor. He wrote in his private journal, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. As a human being, not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a person whose highest duty is to actualize potential, to become the fullest expression of what you are capable of." Look around the modern world. Most people have stopped growing. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, they have settled into comfortable stagnation, living on autopilot, consuming without intention, existing without purpose. They've surrendered the fight for their own souls. But this message, this call, is not for them. It's for you. For the few who still feel that sacred fire. For those who wake up with righteous anger burning quietly inside, whispering, "I was meant for more than this." If you feel that fire, then understand this. It is time to stop negotiating with your own potential, to stop delaying your destiny, to stop trading tomorrow for today. I am not here to give you shallow motivation that fades by next week. I am here to deliver a systematic wake-up call anchored in ancient Stoic wisdom that has transformed warriors, leaders, and thinkers for over 2,000 years. Because if you continue to sleepwalk through life, if you continue to gamble on endless tomorrows, if you continue waiting for the perfect conditions that will never come, you will reach the end of your life weighed down with one thing: regret. And regret, the Stoics warned, is the heaviest burden a human soul can carry. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of the greatest teachers in history, once asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself?" So I ask you, haven't you already waited long enough? From this moment forward, I challenge you to walk with urgency, not anxiety, not panic, not frantic chaos, but with the focused urgency of someone who knows that time is the only resource you can never replenish. Build your life brick by brick, decision by decision, day by day, because no one else will do this sacred work for you. This is your fight, your destiny, your potential to actualize. And in this video, I will walk you through 7 unshakable Stoic principles that will not only shift how you see the world, but force you into real, sustainable transformation. These are not empty platitudes or motivational fluff. They are time-tested strategies forged in the crucible of real life by philosophers, emperors, and warriors who understood human greatness at the deepest level. So if you are truly serious about change, if you are ready to stop watching life pass you by, then lean in, listen closely, and apply these truths ruthlessly. Because once you do, your life will never be the same. But before we begin, prove that you are not here to be entertained. Prove that you are here to commit. Subscribe to Stoic Sage Academy, share this message with someone who needs it, and declare your intent in the comments below. No more delay. I build my life now. Your time is here. Your fight is now. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop negotiating with your laziness. Warrior. The very first and most crucial step to building an unshakable life is deceptively simple yet brutally difficult. You must stop negotiating with your weakness. You must silence the exhausting internal debates that play out every single day between who you are right now and who you know you are capable of becoming. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who commanded the largest empire on earth while facing plagues, wars, and betrayal on every side, confessed in his private journals. At dawn, when you are unwilling to rise, have this thought ready: I am rising to the work of a human being. Think about that. The most powerful man of his time, surrounded by every possible comfort, still woke each morning to the same enemy you and I face. The voice that whispers, "Stay comfortable, take it easy, 5 more minutes." What made Marcus extraordinary wasn't his throne. It was his decision, every single morning, to declare war on that voice of mediocrity. He understood what so many forget. The battle for your destiny is won or lost in those seemingly insignificant moments when your discipline collides with your desire for comfort. This is the exact mindset you must adopt if you want to rise above an ordinary life, because nothing suffocates human potential faster than the daily habit of negotiating with your own laziness. Be honest with yourself. How many times in the last month have you fallen into this trap? Your alarm rings, you set it with intention, and immediately the bargaining begins. 5 more minutes, I'll get up earlier tomorrow. I didn't sleep well, so this doesn't count. You plan to train your body, but you convinced yourself Monday would be a better start. You committed to reading or building a skill, but you rationalized that endless scrolling on your phone somehow counted as research. And every time you surrendered, something far more dangerous than lost minutes occurred. Your self-respect eroded, quietly, silently. You began to distrust your own word, even to yourself. You began to see yourself as someone with good intentions but weak execution. Someone who dreams big but cannot be trusted to act. The Stoics taught that discipline is not about punishment or joyless rigidity. It is about honor. The honor of showing up for yourself even when every fiber of your being screams for ease. The honor of proving to yourself that your word means something, that you can be trusted, not just by others, but by your own soul. Understand this. Laziness is not a fleeting mood or harmless indulgence. It is a mental habit, a corrosive pattern that grows stronger every time you feed it. Like a muscle, it becomes automatic through repetition. But so does discipline. Every time you choose action over avoidance, effort over comfort, discomfort over immediate gratification, you strengthen a different muscle, one that builds a life of power and self-respect. The Stoics even trained this deliberately. They called it voluntary discomfort. They would wake early when they wanted to stay in bed, exercise when their muscles ached, work when their minds craved rest, eat plain food when luxury was available. This was not self-punishment, it was training. Strategic preparation for the storms of life. Because if you can overcome resistance in small, voluntary ways, you build the inner strength to conquer it when life throws unavoidable hardships at you. And here is the devastating truth. Every time you indulge laziness, you lose something far greater than comfort. You lose time. The one resource that once spent is gone forever. You lose opportunity. While you negotiate with resistance, someone with less talent but more discipline is already moving ahead. You lose confidence, because every broken promise to yourself deepens the identity of someone who cannot be trusted to follow through. Most painfully, you lose your dreams, not in a dramatic collapse, but in a slow, silent erosion. Bit by bit, choice by choice, day by day. The business you wanted to start, someone else starts it. The skill you wanted to master, someone else masters it. The relationship you wanted to build, someone else builds it. This is the hidden cost of laziness, your unlived life quietly slipping into someone else's hands. The Stoics demand something higher. They remind us that if you do not master yourself, you will be mastered by circumstances. If you do not conquer laziness now, life itself will conquer you later. And the best time to destroy laziness is not when you feel inspired or motivated. Motivation is fragile, unreliable, fleeting. The best time is this very moment, regardless of how you feel. So how do you defeat it systematically using Stoic principles? First, expect resistance. Do not be shocked when your body craves ease, or your mind resists effort. Even Marcus Aurelius felt it. The difference between the strong and the weak is not the absence of resistance, but their response to it. Second, build systems, not moods. Create daily routines that operate independently of how you feel. Whether you are tired or energized, inspired or discouraged. You execute, you follow through, feelings fluctuate, systems endure. Third, remove temptation, don't just resist it. Structure your environment to reduce distractions rather than relying only on raw willpower. Because willpower is a blade that dulls with use, but structure makes action automatic. If your goal is to read more, then take your phone out of the bedroom. If you want to eat healthier, don't stock your shelves with junk food. If you want to stay consistent with exercise, prepare your workout clothes the night before. This is how discipline is built. By designing your environment so good choices are easy and bad choices are hard. And above all, stop treating discomfort as something to merely survive. Learn to welcome it. That physical strain you feel while exercising is your body adapting, reshaping, and growing stronger. That mental strain when you're learning something new is your brain wiring new pathways. That emotional strain in a difficult conversation is you developing courage and authenticity. Discomfort is not punishment, it's proof. Proof that you are growing. Proof that you are moving forward. Proof that you are becoming someone extraordinary. If you recognize yourself in the cycle of constantly bargaining with laziness, start here. Forgive yourself. The past is done. You cannot alter it. But the future? That remains fully in your hands. From this moment on, draw a line. The new version of you refuses to bargain with weakness. That means when the alarm rings, you rise. No excuses. You work, even when you're drained. Because discipline is what carries you when motivation disappears. You train even without inspiration, because consistency builds strength. You read even when you're restless, because knowledge compounds slowly but powerfully, and step by step, through these seemingly small acts of discipline, the change becomes visible. Your mind sharpens, your body strengthens, your character hardens into reliability, and your life expands in ways that feel almost unfair. Not because of luck or fate, but because of the deliberate application of disciplined choices. The Stoic way was never the easy way, but it is the only way that leads to greatness, genuine self-respect, and the deep satisfaction of knowing you are living at your highest potential. Comfort may look appealing, but it is a golden prison. Discipline is the only key that unlocks freedom. And so the most important question of your entire life is this: will you use that key? Claim your growth right now. Write it below. I refuse to negotiate with laziness. Number 2, build ruthless clarity. The second principle of an extraordinary life addresses one of the greatest problems in our world today: the epidemic of unclear living. Most people are stuck, frustrated, and unfulfilled, not because they lack talent, money, or opportunity, but because they lack something more basic: crystal clear clarity about what they are actually trying to build with their lives. They drift aimlessly, like ships without anchors, tossed by whichever winds happen to blow. Each day is spent reacting to what feels urgent, instead of pursuing what is truly important. They let emotions dictate decisions instead of long-term vision. They say yes to things that don't align with their values and no to challenges that could transform their lives. Seneca, advisor to emperors and master of both wealth and wisdom, warned against this when he wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." This wasn't poetic fluff. It was a practical truth. Without clarity of destination, even the strongest winds of opportunity will carry you nowhere. Without direction, opportunities that could change your life will pass by unrecognized. Even blessings will feel like burdens if you lack the framework to evaluate them. If you want to build your life instead of just managing it, you must become brutally clear about what you are creating. Stop waking up every day hoping something magical will fall into your lap. Stop waiting for circumstances to give you direction. Stop outsourcing responsibility for your life to other people, to society, or to chance. Stoicism is intentional living, conscious action instead of unconscious reaction. And this requires asking yourself the hard questions. Who do I want to become over the next 5 years? Which skills do I want to master and why? What kind of health, clarity, financial stability, and character do I want to build? What problems do I want to solve in this world? What legacy do I want to leave? But here's the mistake most people make. They answer these questions vaguely. They say, "I want to be successful," without defining success. They say, "I just want to be happy," without understanding what happiness actually means for them. They say they want to make an impact, without identifying the problems they feel called to solve. And vague goals produce vague results. Precision creates power. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, he wasn't polishing pretty quotes for the world to admire. He was sharpening his own mind, cutting away fog, and forcing himself to see with absolute clarity what mattered, what didn't, and what his duty truly was. He recognized that a leader unable to think clearly about his own life could never hope to guide others effectively. Real clarity requires sitting with yourself, alone, without distractions, without outside opinions, without social media, without all the noise that usually silences your authentic voice, and daring to answer the hard questions. What unique contribution are you meant to bring into the world? What pain or problem do you feel especially equipped to confront? What kind of lifestyle are you truly prepared to sacrifice for, not merely dream about? Because here lies the difference between genuine clarity and mere wishful thinking. Clarity is not only about aspirations and visions, it's equally about sacrifices and trade-offs. To create something remarkable, you must be willing to cut away anything that weakens or diverts you from that pursuit. That may require stepping back from friends who drain your energy. It may mean declining social activities that clash with your priorities. It may demand the removal of habits that waste time without adding to your growth. When you finally attain clarity about your path, life becomes far more focused and powerful. Not necessarily easier. Clarity does not erase struggle, but simpler, because you now hold clear standards for every choice. Does this opportunity take me closer to the person I want to become, or further away? Does this relationship lift me up, or does it deplete me? Does this activity strengthen my long-term vision or simply feed my short-term attention? With a defined destination, anything that doesn't fit naturally falls away. You no longer say yes out of guilt, boredom, or pressure. You learn to say no even to good opportunities so you can commit to great ones. You begin to understand what Seneca meant when he said that real wealth is found not in having many possessions, but in having few desires that align with your deepest values. Marcus Aurelius, though surrounded by limitless power and comfort, continually reminded himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This wasn't morbid, it was clarity. When you absorb the truth that your time is finite and precious, you naturally stop wasting it on pursuits, relationships, or distractions that do not serve your highest purpose. The reality of mortality forces sharp focus. If death is inevitable, and its timing uncertain, then squandering your limited days in distraction or confusion becomes nothing short of dishonoring the gift of life. With clear values and direction, you act with intention rather than drift with chance. You speak with meaning instead of noise. You wake each morning with a compelling reason to engage fully in the day. To ground this practically, you must create what I call a personal manifesto, a written record of your core values, long-term vision, and unshakable non-negotiables. Write down clearly who you must become to create the life you desire, not the life others expect of you. Define the principles you will never compromise, regardless of convenience or pressure. Maybe your non-negotiables include a morning routine that sets your foundation. Perhaps they involve physical training as the base of mental and emotional strength. They may reflect your commitment to lifelong learning or to disciplined financial choices that secure your future. The details matter less than the sharpness of your clarity and the fierceness with which you guard it. Once clarity is forged, your duty is to protect it relentlessly, because the world will constantly attempt to fracture your focus with noise, gossip, entertainment, and other people's urgencies. Social media is engineered to scatter your attention. News cycles are designed to manufacture urgency over matters you cannot control. Consumer culture thrives on confusing you about what you actually need versus what you are told to want. But you are not ordinary. You do not treat life casually. You are shaping yourself into the Stoic architect of your own destiny. That means defending your clarity and focus as a warrior protects his most sacred weapon. When external forces attempt to derail you, clarity becomes your compass, always pointing back toward what truly matters. Properly built and fiercely defended, clarity is a weapon of power. With it, you cut through doubt and make choices quickly and confidently. Without it, you drown in a sea of endless options and external opinions. In a world built on profiting from your distraction, holding fast to your personal clarity becomes both an advantage and a rebellion against forces that want you small, uncertain, and easily manipulated. Epictetus was once asked why he trained his mind so rigorously in philosophy. His reply was simple: "No man is free who is not master of himself." You take mastery of your life the moment you decide with unwavering clarity the future you are determined to create. regardless of what others may think. So look into your future with precise, fearless eyes. Decide exactly who you want to become. And with uncompromising honesty, strip away anything in your present life that no longer belongs. Then, move forward with clarity, unshakable in your direction. Even if that requires walking alone. Even if it means disappointing those who prefer you small, hesitant, and uncertain. Even if it demands choices others will never understand. Remember, your life is not a democracy. You don't need approval or consensus to pursue your highest vision of possibility. What you need is clarity, commitment, and the courage to act on both. Number 3, stop waiting for motivation. Build momentum yourself. This third transformative principle separates those who create meaningful lives from those who merely dream of them. It dismantles one of the most destructive myths in modern self-development, the belief that success belongs to a lucky few who wake up each morning filled with natural inspiration. This isn't just false, it's dangerously misleading. It keeps millions waiting, hoping, endlessly preparing, while their lives slip away, unused. The truth, understood by high achievers but rarely spoken aloud, is this: success is not fueled by constant inspiration. It is sustained by systematically created, carefully maintained momentum. The Stoic philosopher Cleanthes, who worked nights as a boxer and days as a laborer to fund his philosophical training, captured this principle perfectly. He taught, when the weight of a stone is too great to lift, wedge another beneath it and keep going. This is more than advice about stones. It is a metaphor for achievement itself. When motivation fades, when inspiration dries up, when your energy runs low, you don't stop. You create leverage. You design systems. You build momentum that carries you forward regardless of how you feel. The great mistake most people make is waiting until they feel like taking action before acting. This guarantees mediocrity because emotions are unstable, changing with sleep, weather, stress, blood sugar, the news cycle, or even a single conversation. Let your emotions dictate your actions, and your life becomes an emotional roller coaster. Bursts of progress followed by long crashes of inactivity. The Stoics worked from a radically different framework. They taught that action comes first, feeling second. Behavior should lead emotion, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel courageous to act with courage. You act with courage until it becomes your natural response. You don't wait until you feel disciplined to practice discipline. You behave with discipline until it becomes automatic. This principle governs every form of real achievement. You won't always want to read the book that could transform your mind. You won't always feel eager to exercise when your body is sore. You won't always be excited to work on your craft or resist temptations that sabotage your future. Yet these are the moments when action matters most. Every single act you take while tired, uninspired, or discouraged is a strike against the weaker self you're leaving behind and a building block for the stronger self you are becoming. Each one proves you can be trusted. Each one proves your commitment runs deeper than your comfort. And the Stoics knew, you don't need to start with massive changes. In fact, starting too big guarantees burnout. A Stoic life is not built on bursts of intensity, but on consistent, sustainable steps in the right direction over long periods of time. Want to be physically stronger? Start with 10 minutes of movement every morning. Not 2 hours at the gym when you're motivated, but 10 minutes you can keep even on your worst days. Want to master a skill? Commit to 30 minutes of focused practice daily, even when you're tired. Want to build financial strength? Spend 15 minutes each day studying money instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone. These tiny actions seem trivial, but therein lies their power. Small actions, sustained daily, create compound effects, results that grow exponentially, not linearly. And more importantly, small, consistent actions generate momentum. And momentum, once it builds, creates motivation. not the other way around. This is the reversal most people miss. Action produces motivation. When you act, even in small ways, you see yourself as someone who acts. That identity shift makes future action easier and more natural. Relying on emotion will leave you stalled, because emotions are unreliable. Some days you'll feel powerful, other days broken. If you let this dictate your progress, you'll advance, in fits and starts, if at all. The Stoics called the alternative steadiness, forward movement, regardless of mood or circumstance. Marcus Aurelius embodied this while facing war, plague, loss, and crushing responsibility. He knew consistency mattered more than drama. For the Stoics, discipline wasn't about intensity when you feel like it, but persistence when you don't. Not one massive effort, but one small step, repeated every day. Just as water carves, stone not by force but by persistence, so does disciplined action carve a new future. And here lies the deeper truth. You will never feel ready, not to launch that business, not to write that book, not to confront that conversation. Most people use this lack of readiness as their excuse for delay. But the Stoics remind us, the only right time is now. This moment, with whatever you already have. Life is short and merciless to those who wait. While you're planning, researching, and preparing, time runs out and others, less prepared, but willing to act, move ahead. Stop overthinking, stop overplanning, start acting with what you know, then adjust as you go. Momentum creates the confidence you're waiting for. Mahatma Gandhi, whose thought was deeply influenced by Stoic ideals, once said, "Action expresses priorities. Your actions, not your words, reveal what you value. If you truly value your future, self, prove it by acting even when you don't feel like it. Set what I call daily minimums, small anchors of action you can maintain even on your worst days. 10 push-ups when you can't reach the gym. 1 page of reading when you can't focus for an hour. 5 minutes of meditation when you're pressed for time. These minimums are not about achieving everything with tiny actions. They are about momentum, identity, consistency. Each time you honor them, you prove that you follow through on commitments. And that proof is the foundation for greater action and bigger results. Move forward no matter what emotional state you're in. Let your actions carry you when your feelings abandon you. Trust that steady movement in the right direction will eventually create the motivation and confidence you're currently waiting for. One day, others will look at your life and remark on how driven you seem. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't raw motivation that built your success. It was momentum, forged step by step, through small, consistent actions maintained with discipline. Number 4, surround yourself with builders, not dreamers. This principle touches on one of the most underestimated yet powerful forces that shape your destiny, the undeniable influence of your social environment. The road to building a meaningful and successful life cannot be walked with just anyone. You must become ruthlessly intentional about who you allow into your inner world. Because your surroundings don't just influence your choices, they define who you are becoming at the deepest level. Take an honest look at the 5 people you spend most of your time with. Do they create real value in their lives, or do they only talk about it? Do their daily actions show genuine commitment to growth, or do they endlessly plan without execution? Do they challenge you to rise higher, or do they subtly keep you anchored at their level of mediocrity and comfort? The Stoics understood this long ago, and modern psychology now confirms it. You inevitably become similar to those you spend the most time with. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's great teachers, warned, "Avoid fraternizing with negative people, for they increase your likelihood of sinking to their level." This isn't elitism, it's realism. Your circle is either watering your growth, or poisoning your potential. There is no neutral ground. Every interaction either strengthens your commitment to excellence or weakens it. Look carefully at those who say they want success or change. Don't listen to their words. Observe their behavior. Do they rise early to work on their goals, or do they sleep in and make excuses? Do they invest time in learning, building, and creating, or do they waste evenings gossiping, scrolling, or numbing themselves with entertainment? Many people claim they want discipline, yet surround themselves with friends who celebrate quitting. When things get hard, they say they want wealth, but they spend their time with people who scorn success. They say they want growth, yet their friendships revolve around complaints, not aspirations. If you keep such people close, their standards will soon become yours. Being late feels normal because everyone around you is late. Making excuses feels reasonable because excuses are shared and accepted. Quitting becomes disguised as maturity because everyone has their story of why they gave up. Slowly, your fire starts to fade, not because you lost it, but because you allowed yourself to live among those who never had it, or who extinguished it long ago and now unconsciously want to extinguish yours. Mediocrity craves company, and misery is always recruiting. If you truly want to live by your highest vision, you must deliberately surround yourself with what I call builders. Those who consistently take action toward meaningful goals. These are the ones who wake early not out of necessity, but out of determination to maximize their day. They train their bodies not because it's easy, but because they know discipline in the body strengthens the mind. They invest in knowledge and skills, not for entertainment, but to steadily increase their value over time. Builders speak less of what they will do and more of what they're already doing. They trade empty talk for execution. Their conversations revolve around strategies, tools, and resources, not just emotional comfort. Being around them elevates you naturally because their example exposes your excuses and demands that you step into your potential. Marcus Aurelius himself, despite being surrounded by flatterers, reminded himself to live as on a mountain above the noise of popular opinion, committed to character, not approval. Even as emperor, he understood the danger of lowering his standards to match the crowd. Applying this principle will require difficult choices. You may need to create distance from people who drain your energy, dismiss your goals, or normalize mediocrity. This doesn't require cruelty or dramatic declarations, just a gradual shift of your time and focus toward people and places that nourish growth. Spend time in environments where serious people gather. Gyms, libraries, co-working spaces, workshops, events centered on learning and achievement. And if you fear being left alone by outgrowing your current circle, remember this. Temporary solitude is infinitely better than permanent mediocrity. The Stoics considered solitude not weakness, but training, an opportunity to confront your weaknesses, strengthen your mind, and build independence from social validation. High-caliber people won't appear in your life until you become one yourself. You cannot find builders while living with dreamer habits. The key is not to chase better people. It's to become the kind of person they're naturally drawn to. When you discipline your body, sharpen your mind, master your finances, and refine your skills with quiet intensity, serious people will recognize your energy and want to connect. Builders build whether anyone is watching or not. They don't need applause, encouragement, or validation. If you want to transform your life, first become someone who consistently builds without needing recognition. Because in the end, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of those who walk beside you. Choose people who challenge you instead of those who comfort your mediocrity. Choose people whose actions inspire you, not whose words entertain you. Choose builders, those who are creating something meaningful, rather than those who are merely passing time until the end. Number 5. Stop consuming to escape. Start learning to evolve. This principle addresses one of the most destructive habits in modern society: mindless consumption as a way to avoid discomfort. We live in an age of endless entertainment and distraction. but instead of using it to grow, most people use it to escape. Be honest with yourself. When you scroll endlessly, binge shows, eat beyond hunger, or drown in news and content, are you growing? Or are you hiding from the discomfort of facing your own potential? The Stoics saw this long ago. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," warning that most of our consumption only feeds fears, anxieties, and distractions rather than building wisdom, strength, or skill. Modern consumption is designed to keep you numb, comfortable enough not to change. But every hour spent consuming without intention is an hour stolen from the construction of your future self. Think mathematically. 2 hours of mindless consumption per day equals 14 hours a week, 60 hours a month, over 700 hours a year. Now, imagine reclaiming just half of that time for growth. Studying, training, building, developing skills, or mastering a craft. That's 350 hours per year, nearly 9 full work weeks invested into your evolution. Over a decade, that's nearly 4,000 hours, enough to achieve mastery in multiple areas of life. The Stoics taught that life is not something to be drifted through aimlessly, but something to be lived deliberately, with intention, guiding every choice, every action, and every moment. To them, each decision was either a step toward your higher self or a slip back into weakness. Now, this doesn't mean you must reject all pleasure or never allow yourself to relax. Far from it. It means that relaxation should be a reward for meaningful effort, and that the way you spend your time, even your leisure, should serve a greater purpose, rather than being used as an escape from discomfort or a way to fill the emptiness of idleness. Marcus Aurelius himself, the most powerful man of his era, surrounded by endless opportunities for indulgence, luxury, and distraction, chose instead a life of discipline. In his journal, he wrote the timeless warning, "You become what you give your attention to." Consider how powerful that statement is. If you focus your attention on chaos, drama, gossip, and constant stimulation, you will inevitably become chaotic, dramatic, restless, and addicted to novelty. But if you direct your focus toward wisdom, growth, health, and the pursuit of meaningful challenges, you will, in time, become wise, resilient, strong, and capable of handling life's difficulties with calm courage. The shift from consuming to escape toward consuming to evolve begins with brutal honesty. For 7 days, keep track of your discretionary time, the hours when you're not working, not sleeping, and not handling essential responsibilities. Write it down. How much of that time is invested in your growth, and how much is wasted in short-term emotional management, mindless scrolling, empty entertainment, and digital noise? The answer might shock you. Once you see it, the work begins. Replace your consumption habits, little by little, with learning habits. Instead of instinctively grabbing your phone the second boredom creeps in, pick up a book that stretches your thinking. Instead of binging random videos or endlessly scrolling social media, choose content that teaches you practical skills. Instead of reading news designed to leave you anxious and powerless, study subjects that sharpen your ability to influence your own life. And here's the beauty. You don't have to flip your entire life overnight. Start small. Dedicate just 30 minutes a day, time you would have otherwise spent consuming passively, to intentional learning. Read about psychology, philosophy, health, or business. Listen to podcasts or lectures that challenge your assumptions. Watch videos that show you how to build, create, and master new abilities. But remember this, knowledge by itself is cheap. Real transformation only comes when you apply it. Reading about fitness does nothing unless you train. Studying communication means little unless you practice it in your relationships. Learning about money has no value unless you change how you save, invest, and spend. It is not the information, but the integration of information into daily life that separates the average consumer from the person who evolves into strength and capability. That's when a deeper shift occurs, when consumption itself transforms from escape into strategy. When your brain begins to crave learning more than it craves distraction, you'll know you've crossed the line. You're no longer just drifting. You've gone from consumer to builder, from the passive product of circumstance to the active architect of your own future. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the worth of a man is in the things he cares about. What you choose to give your attention to, not what you claim your priorities are, reveals the truth about your values. If you consistently choose comfort over challenge, entertainment over education, distraction over development, then those are your real priorities, and your life will faithfully reflect them. But if you choose to elevate your attention, if you consistently give it to growth, then your life will rise to meet that higher standard. So choose deliberately. Care about your evolution more than your entertainment. Choose learning over distraction, again and again until it becomes natural. Redirect your attention to things that make you capable, disciplined, and powerful, not things that merely make the hours vanish. Because your future self, the person you have the potential to become, depends entirely on the choices you're making right now, with the most precious resource you own, your attention. Say it with conviction. I consume wisdom, not distractions. Principle 6. Master boredom, the silent forge of greatness. The sixth principle of Stoicism in building an extraordinary life speaks to one of the most overlooked but essential traits of true mastery: the ability to not only endure boredom, but to master it. Most people fail to accomplish anything truly remarkable, not because they lack intelligence, money, or opportunity, but because they cannot withstand the quiet, repetitive, and often unglamorous grind that achievement demands. We live in a culture addicted to stimulation. The instant boredom creeps in, people lunge for their phones, open social media, flick on Netflix, or find some trivial distraction to scratch the itch of novelty. This dependency on constant excitement erodes discipline. It rewires the brain to avoid stillness, making it nearly impossible to focus on long-term goals that require steady, repetitive effort. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius, despite commanding the entire Roman Empire, refused to drown himself in the endless entertainment of his age. Instead, he devoted his time to philosophy, to reflection, to cultivating strength of character. He reminded himself, daily, "It is not death a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And living, in the Stoic sense, does not mean chasing pleasure. It means doing the work that leads to greatness, even when that work feels monotonous. And here's the hard truth. To outsiders, that kind of living often looks boring. Early. Mornings spent in solitude, reflecting, journaling, or meditating. Hours upon hours drilling the same fundamental skill again and again until mastery emerges. Long stretches of quiet, focused work on projects that demand consistency more than creativity. Predictable routines maintained for years, while others chase novelty. Yet this is where greatness is actually forged, not in bursts of inspiration or moments of excitement, but in the slow, invisible accumulation of discipline, skill, and character. Look at any man or woman you admire for their achievements or strength, and you'll find the same hidden reality. Behind the scenes, their lives are structured, repetitive, and disciplined. They don't chase endless bursts of excitement or constant novelty. They don't demand that every task be thrilling or immediately enjoyable. They've grasped a truth most people never discover. What feels dull in the moment, when repeated over time, transforms into extraordinary abilities that others will one day mistake for talent or destiny. Modern life, however, has bred a generation hooked on stimulation. Notifications, scrolling, and entertainment create a psychological dependency that makes sitting with a single task for more than a few minutes feel unbearable. This addiction leads to what researchers call continuous partial attention, a restless state of being half engaged, always on the lookout for the next distraction, never fully grounded in the present. This craving for stimulation quietly destroys potential, because mastery in any field is born from what psychologists term deliberate practice, focused, intentional, often repetitive effort applied to a specific skill over long stretches of time. And deliberate practice isn't always fun. It can feel tedious, demanding, and frustrating. But this is precisely the test, the willingness to persist long enough for small, almost invisible gains to accumulate into breakthrough results. Here's the key that most people miss. Boredom isn't your enemy, it's your trial. Boredom is life's way of asking, do you have the strength to do what matters even when it no longer feels gratifying? It challenges you to prove that your devotion to your goals outweighs your appetite for quick entertainment. The ones who rise to greatness are not those who constantly seek new excitement, but those who can return again and again to the same practice, the same drill, the same effort, long after the novelty has worn off. That ability to remain steady, to push through monotony, unlocks what might be the single most powerful force behind human achievement. Sustained, concentrated effort, applied over time. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They intentionally trained themselves to see value in the plain, the ordinary, and the repetitive. They cultivated what they called preferred indifference, teaching themselves to judge actions not by how stimulating they were, but by how they shaped character and supported long-term flourishing. Marcus Aurelius himself often reflected on the importance of finding meaning in ordinary duties, whether it was governing an empire or performing daily responsibilities that seemed unremarkable. For him, true character was revealed not in rare flashes of inspiration or crisis, but in how one conducted themselves through the steady rhythm of everyday obligations. So the question becomes, how do you meet the ordinary? Do you drag your feet with resentment, resisting tasks that feel dull but matter deeply? Or do you seize them as opportunities to strengthen discipline and prove your loyalty to your values? The practical art of mastering boredom begins by transforming your relationship with stimulation. Instead of seeking constant entertainment, learn to appreciate the quiet satisfaction that comes from immersing yourself fully in meaningful work. Instead of asking, "Is this fun?" ask, "Does this build me?" First, release the expectation that every moment of your life must feel engaging or exciting. The very sensation of boredom can be a signal that you are finally doing something, consistently enough for it to count. If you're always abandoning projects because they've grown dull, you're likely running from the very depth that leads to real capability. Second, anchor yourself in routines that you follow no matter how they feel. Your morning habits, your physical training, your study, and your craft, these must function independently of your mood or craving for novelty. The goal isn't to make routines thrilling, but to make them unwavering, almost automatic. Third, measure progress instead of pleasure. Don't ask, "Was that fun?" Ask, "Did I improve?" Over weeks and months, track your growing skills, your expanding knowledge, your resilience. When your motivation shifts from moment-to-moment excitement to the steady satisfaction of measurable growth, boredom loses its sting. Fourth, bring what I call deep presence into ordinary tasks. Rather than trying to decorate dull chores with artificial excitement, practice engaging with them completely. When washing dishes, just wash the dishes. When training, feel every repetition. When studying, focus intently on the words and ideas, without skimming for highlights. This turns the routine into training for your attention, sharpening the very tool you need for mastery. Finally, remind yourself often, in a world addicted to stimulation, your capacity to endure boredom is a rare and powerful edge. While most people jump from one thrill to the next, unable to stay with anything long enough to grow, you are quietly compounding greatness. You are training yourself to do what others cannot, to remain. Those who achieve the highest levels of success in any field have discovered this secret. They learn to take joy not in the applause, not in the novelty, but in the process of improvement itself. Mastery is not a spark of inspiration. It is a lifestyle built from endless repetitions, performed in silence when no one is watching. If you can keep working when it feels routine, keep learning when the mind craves escape, keep building when progress seems slow, you will become unstoppable. Over the years, the world will marvel at your results, calling you gifted or lucky, but you will know the truth. It wasn't luck or talent. It was your willingness to embrace boredom as the crucible of excellence, to find meaning in repetition, and to transform countless unremarkable days into something extraordinary. The road to mastery is not lit with fireworks. It is paved with quiet persistence. And the question remains, will you walk it? Number 7, live as if failure cannot be your ending, because regret is far worse. This last principle, the one that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones, boils down to a single, unavoidable choice: how you define your relationship with failure and what role you allow it to play in your pursuit of greatness. Every individual who has ever carved something meaningful from their time on Earth has relied on one uncompromising mental stance. They acted as though failure, in the ultimate sense, simply wasn't an option. Now, this doesn't mean they naively assumed life would be free from obstacles, disappointments, or losses. Quite the opposite. They expected setbacks, prepared for obstacles, and endured temporary defeat. But what they rejected completely was the idea of surrender. Quitting for good, accepting defeat as final, that option was erased before the journey even began. Seneca, who endured exile, financial ruin, and ultimately death at the command of the very emperor he once advised, embodied this mindset. He once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And this is the essence of the principle. When you spend your limited years paralyzed by fear of failure, you're not just risking setbacks. You're guaranteeing a smaller, dimmer version of your own life. This forces us to confront a reality most people avoid. Pain is inescapable. Whether you act boldly or play it safe, you will suffer. The only question is which pain you choose: the pain of effort, discipline, and growth, or the pain of regret, untapped potential, and wasted opportunity. Both are difficult. Only one builds something worthwhile, yet most approach their goals with what can only be called half-hearted commitment. They dabble, they experiment, they hope success will arrive, but keep a back door open, a soft cushion for retreat. In doing so, they undermine themselves before the real challenge even begins. They enter with the thought, "I can always quit if this gets too hard." But those who operate with a Stoic builder's mindset adopt an entirely different frame: absolute commitment. When something truly matters, whether it's their health, their relationships, their craft, their financial independence, or their contribution to society, they commit fully, psychologically burning the ships behind them. Retreat is no longer an option. Mediocrity is no longer a safe harbor. This level of commitment forges a kind of mental necessity where persistence, invention, and resilience aren't luxuries. They are survival. When you eliminate quitting, from the table something remarkable happens. The mind becomes resourceful in ways comfort never demands. Obstacles no longer feel like signs to stop, but as problems requiring solutions. The heart learns to absorb temporary setbacks without collapsing into despair, and the entire self, thoughts, emotions, actions, aligns in a single direction that casual commitment could never create. This isn't delusion or blind optimism. It's not pretending that failure doesn't exist. It is instead a deliberate strategy, shaping your psychology in a way that maximizes the chance of eventual victory and minimizes the risk of giving up too soon. How you interpret failure dictates how you respond to it. When setbacks arrive, as they inevitably will, your framing determines whether you regroup and push forward or crumble and withdraw. So ask yourself honestly, what frightens you more? Failing at something that matters deeply, or living the rest of your life with the gnawing regret of never attempting it fully? For most, once faced directly, the answer is obvious. Failure, even dramatic failure, is temporary, often instructional, sometimes redemptive. Regret is permanent, corrosive, and utterly useless. Failure can teach you timing, strategy, and humility. It can forge skills and resilience you would never have developed if everything had gone smoothly. It can redirect you toward paths you could never have seen without stumbling first. Regret, on the other hand, teaches nothing. It only deepens the awareness that fear, not courage, guided your choices. Regret leaves no lessons, no growth, only the painful awareness of what might have been. The Stoics understood this and trained themselves to confront fear with reason rather than emotion. They would ask, what is the worst realistic outcome? If I pursue this with full effort and fail, and what is the worst realistic outcome if I never try and remain stuck in mediocrity? More often than not, the second answer proved far darker. The danger of comfort is often more destructive than the danger of bold action. Life punishes timidity relentlessly, draining self-respect day by day. Life tests the bold with setbacks, but those very trials strengthen and shape them. That is why you must begin treating your greatest aims as though they are life and death missions. If you dream of building a business that frees you financially and allows you to create meaningful work, don't test the waters endlessly. Go all in, research deeply, plan relentlessly, build networks, take massive action. Don't dabble, don't test the waters, commit fully. Adjust your strategies as you go, but never adjust your devotion to the ultimate vision. Want to transform your body and health? Train and eat as if your very survival depends on it, because in truth it does. Your vitality, confidence, longevity, and the entire quality of your life are rooted in the choices you repeatedly make about your body. Want to sharpen skills that can change your career, income, and future? Then study, practice, and refine them as if your financial security rests entirely on your mastery, because it likely does. This level of commitment doesn't promise a life free of mistakes or setbacks, but it does promise that you will never bow out too early, that you will press through obstacles that defeat most people, and that you will extract the greatest growth and wisdom from every experience, whether it ends in success or a temporary loss. Marcus Aurelius captured this reality when he reminded himself that obstacles are fuel. The impediment to action advances action. What blocks the way becomes the way forward. He didn't treat failure as the opposite of success. He saw it as the raw substance out of which greater victories are forged. Even with total commitment, you will still face defeat, rejection, and moments of collapse. But the Stoic doesn't shatter. They reset. They learn, they adapt, they grow tougher, and they continue forward with deeper clarity and sharpened strength. The only real failure is to abandon your mission entirely, to let a temporary obstacle convince you that your purpose isn't worth the fight. Everything else is education. Every challenge is shaping you into the kind of person capable of achieving something extraordinary. When the final pages of your life arrive, may you be able to say with unflinching honesty, I poured myself into what mattered most. I refused to shrink back in fear. I took the risks that aligned with my values and pursued the highest version of what I knew was possible. And even if I fell short of every target, I lived courageously, fully, and without the suffocating weight of what if. If you've come this far, understand this. You are not average. You are not drifting asleep. You are awake to the brutal truth. That time is moving whether you build or not. The Stoics never pleaded for ease. They demanded strength of themselves. They lived by a higher law. Never waste your life in victimhood. Spend it becoming the architect of your destiny. Your future does not need more promises. It needs decisive action. The 7 principles you've learned here are not motivational slogans. They are practical weapons. Apply them daily. Build with discipline, sharpen clarity, maintain momentum, construct powerful environments, practice intentional consumption, master boredom, and commit fearlessly. If you do this, you will astonish yourself with who you become. If you delay, life will continue slipping away, and no one can ever give that time back. Stop negotiating with weakness. Stop begging life for comfort. This is your moment to stand tall, breathe deeply, and act with urgency. Look existence directly in the eye and declare, "I am here to build, not to waste." You already have everything you need: a mind capable of reason, a heart capable of courage, and the fleeting gift of time. But that time is running out. Begin now, because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your destiny. Write this final affirmation in the comments. I build my life with relentless discipline, and if this message resonates, like, share, comment, and subscribe to stay grounded on this journey of Stoic strength.